and there's so much escalation, and I can't pretend to be an expert on what's going on there, but I definitely have some thoughts. One other quick thing about me before I launch into my presentation is in 2011, I shot the first movie ever on a cell phone. It qualified for the Academy Awards in 2012. It's Jenna Roland's last movie, and it was the music was done by Dolly Parton. She wrote and performed 5 original songs. So I am a creative at heart. Well, let me share with you my screen here. Give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay. So that mural that you're looking at there is the very first mural in Jerusalem. And I was invited, like I said, by the vice mayor of Jerusalem. This mural was unveiled on January 9th, 2023, so this year. Those 4 women were all murdered by the Islamic regime. This girl here, her name is Mahsa Amini. She was the very first one, and we're actually going to get back to her at the end of the presentation. This woman's name is Serena, this woman's name is Fereshte, and this woman's name is Nika. These 2 girls were 15. These 2 women are Kurdish Persians. So Iran has something like 40 or 50 different ethnicities and has 40 or 50 different languages. The reason I put these 4 women together is because at the time, every Iranian knew who they were. And the point of these murals is to inspire the women and the people of Iran to keep fighting. And it's a wonderful thing to remember somebody in like Kansas City or Austin, Texas, or somewhere, like that. But when you put somebody's face in Jerusalem, in the Holy Land for the entire world, it does something very special. And these women are remembered in the Holy Land. They're remembered in Jerusalem. I want to focus in on this woman here. Her name is Fereshte. She wasn't protesting. She was just watching. And 5 days after she was murdered, this image went around the world. It's her daughter mourning at her grave. You can see in this image here, the daughter's grabbing the soil in the ground. And when I saw this, my heart broke, and I knew I had to remember this woman here. These women were basically all killed for showing their hair, so we united them with their hair. The world's press descended on this mural because it was the first mural in the Middle East. The second mural is in Nazareth. Here it is, these 15 people all murdered by the Islamic regime. We put their names here. We put the words woman, life, freedom up top, and we did it in Arabic, Farsi, and Hebrew. And yeah, the thing about Nazareth is it's an entirely Arab city within Israel. 70% Muslim, 30% Christian. So there was a little bit of pushback of putting it there, but lo and behold, it's there. It's Jesus's hometown. He lived there from the age of 4 to 29. Here are the names and ages of all the people who were murdered. This little girl here was 7. This boy was 9. And I, for these murals, what I do is I always put these 3 lines together. So this is a woman riding a lion with a sword in her hand because it's a woman-led revolution. This is the flag of Jerusalem, which is the Lion of Judah outside the Temple Mount. And this is the original Zoroastrian symbol of Iran, which is a lion holding a sword with the sun rising at its back. And then lastly, the relationship between the Persians and the Jews is very biblical. And I was with an Arab Christian woman, and she said, Hooman, it's time. And I said, it's time for what? She said, it's time for the Esthers of the world to rise up. So there it is. There's that phrase on all the murals. In Iran, one of the things they do is when a woman protests, they'll take a little gun and they'll shoot out her eye. They saw that killing wasn't very effective, and they saw that throwing 20,000 people in prison wasn't that effective. So they reverted to this. I found this artist in Budapest, and this is what she does with people who are sort of missing an eye. She does that. So I I stole this idea from her. Actually, I called her and asked her, and she said yes. So here's another woman whose eye was shot out, and they always target the most beautiful women. So this is the fourth mural in Netanya, and I used the bird of Iran, the nightingale, to cover her eye. And then the fifth mural is also in Netanya, and behind the woman that you saw earlier, this woman here, Ghazal, is the Temple Mount. So this is also known as the Eastern Gate or the Golden Gate. I believe the Golden Gate Bridge is named after this. And from a biblical standpoint, it's a very significant part of the Temple Mount. And I used the bird of Isreal to cover her eye. So this mural and this mural are about 200 yards from each other. They're sister murals, one with the bird of Iran and one with the bird of Israel. And then once again, you've got Esther's of the World Rise Up. You have all the symbolism. In Iran, I forgot to prepare one thing here. Give me 1 second. There were these 5 girls, and they did this dance. The dance, sorry. They did this dance, and I just want to show it to you really quickly. Give me 1 second. Sorry, didn't have this one ready for you. Yeah, so let's see if this will play. Okay, see these 5 girls dancing? It's kind of slow.
No, looks like your screen is frozen.
Oh, it is. Okay, sorry.
Or is that just me?
No, it's frozen. Or
Okay,
something's
thank you.
wrong.
You see it now? Do you see it now?
No, but if you want to put the link in the chat, Hooman, I can probably
Okay.
from my computer.
Can you there were these 5 girls that did a dance in Iran.
I'll find it.
And the dance got them basically they got 100 lashes publicly. They got thrown in prison. And I wish I could show you their video. Let me see if it's here. Nope. 1 second. Hold on. Let's see if this works.
I got it, Hooman.
Oh, you do? There it is.
Oh, there it is.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, we can see it now.
These 5 girls did a dance. And from our standpoint, that's fairly innocent. But dancing is illegal and showing your hair is illegal. So like I said, these girls were arrested. They were put in prison. Weren't allowed to speak to their parents. And when I saw this, it really affected me in a huge way. And I wanted to commemorate these 5 women. This is Azadi Tower. It's like the Eiffel Tower of Iran. And it's actually named Freedom Tower. So what I did was I created a future scene of these 5 girls dancing in front of Azadi Tower with a DJ and thousands of people cheering them on. And that's the one mural that's in the United States. That's the one in downtown LA. So that sort of catches you up to today. That first woman, Mahsa Amini. Oh, actually, one other thing. In response to the 5 murals I did in Israel, the Islamic regime finally responded. And they responded with their own mural. And they unveiled this 1 month after, because by the time I did my first mural, there were 75 murals in the world. And the Islamic regime didn't care. They were in America, Canada, Australia, Europe. But by the time they got to the ones in Israel, the Islamic regime felt pressure to respond. So they created this mural, and it's throughout Iran. And it's a mural of an atomic bomb. And on the atomic bomb, the Islamic regime wrote in Hebrew, 400 seconds to Tel Aviv, as a threat to Israel and a threat to what we were doing there. So it elicited a response from them, which some people will look at as really good, and some people will be like, really, that's really scary. And it is scary, but at least they finally responded. It got their attention. This is Mahsa Amini, and the 1-year anniversary of her murder was September 16th, 2023. That was the 1-year anniversary. And when you type in Mahsa Amini into Google, this is the picture you're going to see of her most likely. It's the most common picture of her. And there's a lot of things I don't love about this picture, but the thing I like the least is the fact that her hair is covered. Because this whole war is ultimately about hair. I mean, these women don't want to wear a hijab, and the Islamic regime is forcing them. So I worked with a couple designers, and we created an AI image of Massa, and this is the AI image we created of her. So she looks, you know, beautiful and radiant and shining, and you can see her hair. And so the idea was on the 1-year anniversary to unveil 3 murals in Israel, one in Tel Aviv, one in Haifa, one in Jerusalem, all slightly different. So I'm just going to show you the one that we unveiled in Haifa, so you have an idea. And we turned this image into a mosaic. And so we put 7,000 squares on Massa Amini's face. And that's the image in Haifa, and that's the one inside the University of Haifa. And inside each square is the face of somebody either murdered or put in prison. So there you go. These are the murals we just unveiled. So as a result of this image being shown on the 1-year anniversary of Massa, we're up to 7 murals in Israel. So that's where we are today. That's where we are at this moment. So what's next? What's next? So what's next is this. So as we can see, Iran treats their people horribly. From all accounts, they fund Hamas and Hezbollah and ISIS. And this attack in Israel was sponsored by the Islamic regime, no matter how much they deny it. So now that you know all of this about the Islamic regime, you've seen all their atrocities, I have some crazy news to share with you, which is on November 2nd, the United Nations is going to install the Islamic regime of Iran. The United Nations in Geneva is going to install them as the vice president of the Human Rights Commission. Once again, the United Nations strikes. So I was talking to some people in Switzerland, and they said, and one person from the EU and one person from the UN, and they said, can you unveil a mural on either November 1st or November 2nd in opposition to this in Geneva? And I said, yes, I absolutely can. So I always thought Israel was complicated. Switzerland is 10 times more complicated than Israel. I can't even put it in words how complicated Switzerland is. So we have the design, and it's going to be very similar to the mosaic, because that one seems to really resonate when you see Massa's face and then you see the faces within the face. And I'm going to have a lot of nods to Switzerland and the United Nations, you know, the champion of equity and people and freedom and human rights, installing this regime. But I'm having a tough time navigating Switzerland. So you got to get some politicians on your side. People have to petition on your behalf. Obviously, I'm a foreigner coming in there. So that's the next thing I want to do. And my plan was to go from Switzerland to Israel and do 3 more murals, because the ultimate goal is to do 18 murals in Israel. 18 because it's a very significant number in Judaism, but it's also a prophetic number that was given to me. So I'd be up to 10 murals there. So that's sort of where we're at. And yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Hooman. And then, so what can we do? I know that, first of all, do you have the mural sketched out of which one we'll do?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's going to be very similar to the one you saw there. Instead, Massa Amini is going to be wearing an outfit that's the flag of Geneva. And the flag of Geneva is a very unique flag. It's comprised of the imperial eagle and the key of St. Peter. So that's what she's going to be wearing as a thank you, because I have Masa Amini wearing blue and white in Tel Aviv to thank Israel for allowing the mural to be there. So it'll be very similar to that. And then the background will be a place in Switzerland and a place in Israel. And but yeah, it's going to have the same theme.
And then Jim asked which building was depicted in the 400 seconds to Tel Aviv.
Yeah, let me share my screen again if that's okay. Let me go back here. So this is a banner that the Islamic regime created, and it looks like they just put it on the side of an apartment building. There is no, yeah, so this is what it looks like from a distance. This is what it looks like close up. So I don't think there's an actual anything in the background of their mural. It's just a lot of missiles headed towards Tel Aviv.
Got it. And then, okay, good. Yeah, I'd just love to open it up if anybody has any questions, comments.
I'll just say this: if anybody has any contacts at the UN or Switzerland, I could use your help.
Hooman, let me jump in. I just got off the phone with a gentleman. I think I've mentioned him to you before, but he was at that dinner where I met Lisa Daftari, who I know you've been in contact with.
Yeah.
And he's stayed in contact with her after that Wiesenthal Center dinner. And he just mentioned to me that she has recently been involved with the UN and flew to New York. He had set up a meeting with maybe the Israeli ambassador, some other people at the UN for her. He was supposed to attend, he had COVID. But the bottom line is, I don't know whether or not she has contacts that can help with the Switzerland, Geneva piece of all of this.
Okay.
But I know you're in contact with her anyway. Why don't you reach out to Lisa? She can catch you up on what she did at the UN. I think she was partly responsible, her meetings there were partly responsible for the Israeli ambassador of the UN's raising that sign and, drawing a lot of attention to this, the horrible human rights record of Iran and what's happened with Amini and other women, the whole freedom movement there. So just a quick note, or a lengthy way of giving you the quick note to call Lisa. She might be able to help on the UN piece.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's a friend of ours. She's a reporter on like Fox and Newsmax and basically all the networks. Yeah, I just sent her a text right now. So thank you. And by the way, that guy who just spoke, his name is Manny. He's one of my good buddies, big entertainment lawyer, and we've tried 100 different ways to sort of work together. It hasn't taken off yet, but it's going to one of these days.
Okay, good. And Manny, I might be reaching out to you because for our entertainment session in a few weeks, I was thinking about having somebody come on and just talk about there was a little hiccup in the strike for the actors today. Totally different subject.
Well, Hooman can tell you how to find me. Happy to talk to you.
I'll connect.
And Hooman, Kim, that's leading our space business community, just got done with a big conference they had at the UN in New York during it's like Tech Week or something that happened there. So I'll check in with her. She's from DC, so she might have some connections. I think Bruce is in DC. Maybe he can go knock on the door of the White House for us to see if he can get some help. What's going on, Bruce?
Back in New York now. I'm back in New York.
Oh, you're in New York. Go to the UN. Okay.
Yeah, we was at the French embassy, so that was really good against standing against the death penalty and stuff. That was pretty good. So I sent you some pictures, right, Dave?
What's that?
Did I send you any pictures?
Oh no, I don't think. Oh, you sent me. Yeah, you sent me with you didn't send me many, but just one where you're standing with a couple of people. But send them on over. I want to check them out.
All right, I definitely will. Definitely will.
Thank you.
How's it going? How y'all doing?
Everything's good. We're trying to
I'm hanging out.
That arm, I know that was funny. But it's Halloween, all sorts of stuff's gonna be coming. That was funny. I'll show that maybe later. But we are, Bruce, as you're in your circles there, looking for connections in Switzerland, because Hooman's been, and I'll fill you in on this when I touch it in the morning, but Hooman's been hanging murals to support the women that have been getting persecuted, either put in jail or killed just for dancing or showing their hair in Iran. So he's been putting up
Cool,
posters.
Deli. Well, we need to get on top of that. I'm
Yeah,
all for that with Umar. I want to learn more about that.
Yes, I'm going to
That's the
connect
fight.
you to it. And as people you're
That's the
talking with, yeah. So thank you.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Okay,
That is
Bruce.
it.
And we'll do something. We're gonna do this. Yeah. So I'll tell everybody more about you, and we'll have you come on and speak too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mute you when you're not speaking, just a little background noise.
Could
Martin,
I make a suggestion, David,
yes, Tara,
Um,
please.
on LinkedIn? So I just went and looked up United Nations. And while I don't have any first connections there, I do have several second connections. So it may be worth all of us just reaching out to our second and third connections and saying, do you know who the right contacts would be who might be able to help? And maybe between us, we can find someone that could reach out to Hooman, sorry.
For sure. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I'll take a look at my LinkedIn as well and see who might I'd be connected to as well.
Yeah, I think sometimes, especially for those that have been on LinkedIn for a while, I've been on, God, I just hit 21 years, I think, but we probably have people that we haven't connected with for a while. So if I look and just, kind of clicked on my connections and then search by locations, many people, 18 people in Switzerland. I think Ken Rakowski was just through Switzerland, Hooman. I think that's what he said on Monday. The Geneva Development Capital. I don't know. This lady. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to search through. And if anybody wants support it, figuring out how they can dig in to their LinkedIn, I think, Hooman, let's schedule a session over the weekend about that. I'm going down to LA tomorrow for a meeting, but even some of the people I'll be meeting with could potentially be
Useful.
yeah, I think so. It's a meeting. Yeah.
Well, one of the things about Switzerland that's so complicated is there's so many groups and there's so many events, and they sort of compete with one another. When I'm in Israel, I'm the only one doing this, so nobody is like trying to derail me. But in this very short amount of time, there's 2 or 3 other groups who are like, no, you can't do this date, we're doing this date, and we can't combine forces with you. And so this is sort of what I'm dealing with Switzerland, where people, I mean, I guess the whole world is really divided right now, but people are very territorial. So this is what I'm having a tough time trying to figure out.
And maybe with some of those groups, if we could find some like-minded groups and let them make it their event too and get their name on it, right?
100%.
Can be helpful if we can find some people that are in alignment with what you're doing, so that way they don't have to reinvent the wheel and they can kind of piggyback off of the things you've already have been doing and will be doing. I think that could be something we'll look at for sure.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's where I need a little bit of assistance, but yeah, you're right. A good angle might be the trade commissioners for economic development. All right. If anybody knows them, let me know.
Okay, we'll put Jim on that. This woman who had come up as a mutual connection to that Geneva board thing. She thanks for joining, Manny. She's head of like women on boards or something. I'll reach out. I'll put her on the list. We'll get
Okay.
that going.
Yeah, it's obviously with everything going on in the world right now, this situation has become a lot more complicated, but it's also like the perfect time to keep this going. Finally, the Biden administration has addressed the $6 billion they transferred from the South Korean bank to the Bank of Qatar, and they were silent on that. And this whole event has forced them to talk about it. And no matter what your politics is, I feel like we're at a place where we sort of need to talk about everything, and we can't sort of just secretly be sneaking $6 billion from here to there. So as brutal as the situation is, I think everything that's sort of coming to light in the discussions are really advantageous, especially for these murals that are going up. Because my idea was never to do one in the US and never to do one in Europe. And here I am doing one in the US and one in Switzerland.
What did they say about it? I missed the who was speaking. When did they? I missed that. Was it this morning that they addressed it? The 6 billion?
Yeah, they did. So as we all know, there's quite a few Iranian American hostages in Iran, but there are 5 in particular that, it seemed like the Biden administration wanted out, 5 hostages. So they said, look, we'll give you that $6 billion that was in this, locked up in this bank in South Korea. We'll transfer it to this bank in Qatar if you give us these 5 hostages. And the Islamic regime said yes. And every Persian from the mountaintops was saying, do not give them the $6 billion. All of that money is going to go to Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, and it's none of it's going to go to the people of Iran. None of it. So anyway, the deal went down. The people came over, the hostages, and so the second that happened, 3 weeks later, you've got Hamas killing all these people, Americans and Jews throughout Israel, and it really emboldened them. And so today, the Biden administration says we're freezing the money in Qatar. So we'll see how long that lasts. But the money is now out of Asia and into the Middle East, which makes it a lot more accessible.
Right, but if they had 400 billion anyway, I mean, there's some of the things I saw. It's like another 6 billion. It's not going to influence. And plus, I think it's not just Americans and Israelis, it's people from 28 different countries that were either killed or hostage or held hostage. Martin, I'd love to hear, like, from your part of the world, any comments? Do you have any friends in Switzerland, first of all? And anything you want to share?
Well, I was actually looking right now on my LinkedIn, and I also checked the UN connections. I got some of those also, but I don't really know if they're relevant. What exactly are you searching for?
Oh, what I'm searching for is any person of influence in Switzerland, anybody who either does PR or anybody who's in politics, or anybody that can sort of help me navigate the system there, because I need to get permits, and I need somebody who knows the lay of the land and has basically done some kind of demonstration before.
Yeah. I'll keep that in mind, and I'll send you a friend request, and I'll also send you those from my network that could be relevant.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I think it's terrible, the crisis that emerged, and it's I'm a peaceful man, I would love for us to kind of stop war. We should be as civilized that we could come to some kind of agreement without dropping bombs on each other, So, but it is what it is, you know, and I'm kind of worried about what's coming next, you know. So, and I think that's kind of general, also in Norway and Scandinavia. I think most of us stand with Israel, but you know, it's hard to stand with somebody in this, you know, because I think most of us want peace.
Right.
And that's what I hope will end up. But this is kind of a never-ending story where you kind of create generational hate, you know, and that's not a good thing. That's just what I think.
Yeah, and the innocent people are getting killed and injured, and you know, I
Yeah.
mean, Bruce had sent me a video just in New York and the Pakistan, the people celebrating on the Palestinian side, you know, Palestinian background, celebrate. I mean, who really, you want to celebrate women and children getting killed? I mean, I understand they've been through a lot, the people, and I think we all want to protect people. I mean, how was the vibe there, Bruce? It looked like it was getting on the verge of getting out of control. Can you talk?
Mute.
He's on
Had
the-
it not been for the officers there, it would have been a full scale riot. No doubt about it. I mean, and they were FBI, there were everybody there. And they had to stand in the middle of the street, they had to put up barricades. The media was isolated, but the footage I took was in the media booth. So it was very, very serious. A lot of vitriol being spewed on both sides at each other. It's crazy because the reality is violence begets violence, right? Violence begets violence, and unless one party says, "Okay, you know, let's diplomacy is what works," this cannot possibly work.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest with you, that was just one day. I heard it's going on and on and on and on and on.
Where is it? Like around Times Square or Midtown or?
42nd and 2nd Avenue.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy. And thank you, Fred, and thanks for joining. Sorry for the link mess up. Bruce was just sharing about, you know, how does, you know, just celebrate, you know, Palestinian people celebrating this in New York, 42nd and 2nd, and Israeli people, obviously, and other people not agreeing with that, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Have you been in touch, Hooman, with any? I know I reached out to many WITI Isreal members. They were good. Have you spoken to some of the people that you've been working with since you hung the murals, just to check in and see how they're doing?
Yeah, so the second all this went down, the woman who invited me to Israel was the vice mayor of Jerusalem. She's probably the biggest face of sort of what's going on right now because she's been on Anderson Cooper, she's been on Fox, she's been on MSNBC. Her name is Flor Hassan. And I wrote to her the second all this started and I said, "Hey, I'm so sorry for what's happening. Let me know if there's anything I can do." And she wrote back in no uncertain terms with, "This is 100% Iran. Iran is to blame for everything happening." And the truth of the matter is she's right. Iran is the #1 sponsor of terrorism for the whole world. So, and then, you know, there's another 30, 40, 50 people. Some of them have murdered cousins. Some of them have, you know, kidnapped nephews. So, you know, in terms of military might, there's no comparison. Israel, you know, completely dominates the Middle East. There's no doubt that they're going to be able to do whatever they want to Gaza. As Bruce was saying earlier, it's going to be a bit of a mess, and I don't know how they're going to come out of this without creating, 1,000 more or 10,000 more enemies. A lot of people have a theory that because Israel and Saudi Arabia were about to make peace for the first time ever, that needed to be deterred, and so this was the way. But on the other hand, you have to also say, Israel has got the greatest military. They also have incredible intelligence. How could they have had such a massive intelligence failure
Yeah.
as well?
That's my
So-
question. Exactly. And we have the CIA, between the CIA and Mossad. I cannot believe this is too suspicious that there was nothing on the radar about all this. This was so well planned. And I just don't believe it for a second. And I have to say, I'm Jewish. So I have a lot of compassion. But when I hear these words like, oh, it's so horrible, the atrocities, given what how these people grew up and what they think and of Israelis, they've grown up experiencing atrocities from the Israeli side. That's how it looks to them. That's how they can pull this off. That's how they feel inside themselves. These aren't atrocities. This is the way you've been treating us for decades. That's the way they look at it. And you can't lay blame at while Iran may have been the ones that logistically helped plan this. I'm sorry. There's too much good intelligence in the world that this could have happened without it being known. So I'm just going to suggest that it might have been allowed to happen for various political reasons.
Well, listen, you're Jewish. You can 100% get away with saying all of that.
Yeah. And not only that, my parents were in the Holocaust. I lost people in the Holocaust. So I know, but I've also done a lot of my own work to know that we have to put ourselves in the mentality of our enemy. And I also been around long enough to know that an eye for an eye will just get the world killed. So what are we going to do in this situation? What's going to be the end here?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's like Fred just said, there's a lot of questions that will probably never get answered with this whole situation. But then this points back to Switzerland and this mural, because at the end of the day, we're very suspicious of a lot of things, but I think we can all agree on the Islamic regime should not be made vice president of the Human Rights Council at the United Nations. That's a slap in the face to the whole world.
Yeah, and that's what kind of kicked this off, Fred. So Hooman's been hanging, these murals in Israel to support the women of Iran. So it's kind of to show that that people are standing for their people. Now he's looking, and if you have any connections in Switzerland, because he really just needs some influential people there, because he's working on getting another mural to protest that they're inserting this. What is it, Hooman? Please repeat what they're doing.
What the United Nations is doing?
Correct.
Yeah. So here, let me just give you some context so that you can understand how this all transpired. When Russia started attacking Ukraine, they went to Iran and said, "We're already good friends. Let's be best friends." And Iran, of course, said, "Absolutely, Russia. What do you want?" And Russia said, "We want two things. We want our gas for 10 cents a gallon," which 100% they're going to do that because Iran has either the largest oil reserves in the world or the second largest, but they're high up there. And then they also said, "Will you build all the drones for us to use to attack Ukraine?" And Iran said, "Of course, we'll do that too." So as a way of thanking the Islamic regime, the way this all went down was Russia said, "Iran, we are currently vice president of the Human Rights Council. We are going to step down and hand you the seat." And Iran said, "Thank you, Russia." So this is what we're dealing with. And because, Russia's got one of the 5 veto powers of the United Nations, they can sort of get away with anything they want. So that's what's going to happen on November 2nd. They're going to be officially installed, I think, for at least 1 year as the vice president.
But that's all very interesting, Hunan, but I haven't really experienced the United Nations having a lot of clout over the years.
No, listen, the United Nations is one misstep after another. There's no doubt about that. But just the act of it, the symbolism of it, you know, you've got this one country who's the biggest violator of human rights being elevated to this position. It's just, I mean, we have to say something. We can't do nothing. We can't just let this happen.
Yeah. Well, but there are those on that council and around the world that think the Israelis have violated lots of human rights, and they're on the council.
Right. Right. I guess there's nobody doesn't, everybody has bloody.
You know, if I were to lay blame, I'd lay blame at the hard right wingers in Israel and Netanyahu, for God's sakes.
Yeah, that's
The stubborn fucking Jews. Excuse me.
right.
But there's some truth in that. I just have to say, you know, it's like.
Well, listen, I 100% can't control any of that. I'm a guest when I go to Israel. I'm a guest in Switzerland. The one thing I can do is sort of, you know, the great thing, one of the good things that's come out of all of this brutality that's happened in Israel is everyone's aware of the $6 billion in the Qatar bank that's earmarked for Iran. And one of the good, right, and one of the good things that's going to come out of Switzerland is there will be awareness to the fact that the Islamic regime is, because nobody knows, none of you knew that this was happening. None of you knew about this. You know, this should be front page news everywhere. So I just need to bring awareness to the fact that this is happening. These are baby steps.
Yep. All right. Well, Hooman, thank you for all you're doing. First, I want to see if Sean Antin or Dr. Carolyn Turbyfield have any comments or would like to just say anything.
Sure, I'd like to say something. I'm laying down with an ice pack on, but I'll start the video so you'll know I'm me. Hi, everybody. The United Nations was never formed to mediate crises or disagreements between superpowers. It was formed for those occasions when countries can get together and do something good. And so United Nations does a lot of great things on human rights and everything else, but it's an unrealistic expectations that they can mediate these things that are essentially fights between superpowers. So I think the work with the UN is good and it does very good things. And that's just about it. I mean, I don't see ragging on them all the time. There's only so much they can do in the structure that they've got. And thanks for the good work.
Thank you as well. Thank you, Carolyn. I hope your back feels better.
Okay. Anyone else like to comment? Thank you. Stephanie put a link in the chat, Hooman, about a connection she had to the CFO of the UN or one of the CFOs. I'm sure they have many divisions. I'll go through my Rolodex. Hopefully they still use that word. Anyone else? Fred and Sean, and we do have and Hooman, we have, and Bruce, we have Andy Stack on HAL 9000 today, just FYI. Yeah, I'll ask. I've got the wheels are turning, Hooman, so we'll figure out how we can get it done. When are you leaving? We're planning to leave?
Well, it was originally supposed to be unveiled on the 24th on United Nations Day, but there was some conflict, so it looks like it'll be on November 1st. We'll unveil, probably leave around the 27th or the 28th of October.
What is it that you need, Hunan?
Yeah, so Switzerland is very complicated to navigate. I just need some people at the United Nations that could be my friends, that could help me, or some people in Geneva, Switzerland that can help me figure out the permit situation, and to be able to hold a rally of sorts. I just need people acquainted with Switzerland and how it runs so that I could, do this legally as opposed to illegally.
Right, so
Okay, I'll think too.
think about it, fast tracking permits, getting support from groups, if there's any groups that you feel would have alignment with what Hooman's trying to do, that would be great, because especially if they're already in Geneva, they may have a lot of these relationships already, and then we can just attach them to it, so. We will think. Now, Hooman, I am going down to LA for a meeting tomorrow. Where's the where's the mural so I can drive by it?
Yeah, it's at the Neiman Brothers building. It's in downtown LA, and it's about 3 blocks away from the Lakers play, crypto.com. Yeah, so if you type in Neiman Brothers building LA, the address pops right up.
Great. Okay, I think that'll be close because I'm going downtown for my meeting tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
Maybe
perfect.
maybe I'll be able to see Sean Enton when I'm down there. We shall see.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Great.
Anything else we want to talk about, or should we call it a wrap? I'll turn off everything.